Well, hello and welcome to Transform Tuesday. I'm Dave McCormick, VP of Products and Services here at Alpha Software. I'm joined today also by Sarah Mitchell, who's in charge of our documentation department. And today I have something exciting to go over. It is a new release of Alpha Transform. Of course, I'm also here to take your questions. So if you do have any questions, go ahead and type them into the questions box of the GoToWebinar control panel. And before we get started, could someone please let me know whether or not you can hear my voice and whether or not you can see my screen so I know everything is connected okay.
I can see it.
Oh, all right. Perfect. Thanks very much. Well, let's jump down here to slide number 233 in our series. Whoop. Here we go. We're going to talk today about Transform version 5.3.5. And you should be getting, everyone who is a Transform as a Transform account should have an email in their inbox within the next 24 to 48 hours with instructions on how to try out this brand new version before we go live in a couple of weeks. So today we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the key features of the new version. We're going to talk about how to actually test out the new version. And hey, let's get started. So to begin with, let's start with how to test. Now, the newer version of Alpha Anywhere, we're going to give you an icon, and it's going to look similar to one of these here, and you're going to just basically scan it and install Alpha Anywhere onto your phone when it is time, or your phone or your tablet. Now, this is for Android users and for that group of people for whom we have a UDID on file. You know who you are. You guys can use iOS as well, but mostly we're looking at Android testing. Once that is set up, you'll basically have a new copy of Alpha Transform running on your phone, and that will be the beta version. I don't believe you can have them side by side, so do save your work in the old version. If you have any good work that you need, upload it to the Transform server, and then log in with a new version. Now, the nice thing about the new version is it is very sandboxed from your current work, so you can do all kinds of tests without worrying about breaking anything. And let me show you how we go about doing that. Let me go ahead and share my screen here from my phone. Okay, where did it go? Oops, I'm not on Wi-Fi. Hang on a second, that's my bad. Okay. Sorry, I just shut off Wi-Fi a moment ago. I had forgot I need it for screen sharing. Okay, it looks like I'm connecting. There we go. And I should be able to share my screen now. There we go. Okay, there it is. And here we are in Alpha Transform. Now, so far, Alpha Transform looks exactly the same on the login screen. But if I click, there's now a menu button up here at the top left. And if I click on that menu button, that hamburger menu button, I now have a new option called Set Server, which I didn't have before. Now, this is pretty cool for two different reasons. Reason number one is it lets you test against the Transform test server, and then behind the Transform test server is a Transform test database, which means that you won't hurt anything. But the other thing is, if you are interested in doing your own on-premise or separate cloud installation of Alpha Transform, you are no longer limited to simply using the Alpha Transform that we have running up on our cloud. You will now be allowed to install, or you'll have the option, it's a paid separate option, but if you want to, you'll be able to run Transform the whole system in-house. And the way you'll do it is just by using the Set Server button. I'm going to go ahead and tap on Set Server, and you'll see it says the current value right now is the beta server. And if I had, and the way I set that was I hit the scan button, and I happen to have had an icon here, which had the, move my phone over here, which had the icon for the server, for this beta server. So this is the icon for the app. You're going to get this in an email. This is the icon for the server. You're going to get that in the same email. And here is the location for the beta version of Transform Central. Again, you're going to get that in an email. So that's how you're going to set everything up. So I'm going to go ahead and log in right now. Hang on a moment while I pause my screen, type in my password. Okay. And I'm going to choose this account here, and now we're going to hit play. All right, good. So I should be back here. Okay. So here I am in the beta version of Alpha TransForm, and there's a new feature that I want to introduce to you right now called queuing. So let's pop over to my slide on queuing. And I think I can move this out of the way for now. I'm going to move this over here. Okay, queuing. So when you create tickets in Alpha TransForm or in TransForm Central, typically you assign them right away to a person, because if you don't assign them to a person, they aren't going to show up on anyone's phone or tablet to download. Now in the new version of Alpha TransForm, you have the ability to assign these brand new forms to a queue. And a queue allows multiple users to come up and claim their ticket live right from the mobile application. And in fact, we support multiple queues, which means there may be reasons for breaking that up and reasons why you would want to put multiple forms into multiple queues. For example, maybe there's a task that someone with qualification A or qualification B could do. You might have two separate queues, one for people with qualification A, one for qualification B, but you know that that task can be done by either, so you'll put it in each queue. That way, when they log in, they can go and select the ticket from the queue and start using it. Okay, so that's the theory, but let me show you how that actually works. Let me pop over here to TransForm Central. Again, I'm in the new beta version. And I'm going to go to the management console, and I have a really simple form that I've created. In fact, let me show it to you right here. You may have seen it before when I was showing you a TPL demonstration, but it's just called Area Tracker. All it does is capture the length and the width, and it determines the area, which is, by the way, it's not doing right here. It doesn't do that in preview. So over here in Management Console, I'm going to create a new copy of this form. I'll just add one. And I'm going to edit the values. Let's say I'm going to put in 15 as the length. So I'm pre-filled out that form, let's say, and I'm going to click Save. Now, I've clicked it here, but right now, this form isn't assigned to anyone. It says, you'll see the other two were assigned to me. This one is, I haven't yet filled in the user ID. But instead of specifying a specific user, I'm going to choose a queue. So I'm going to click this queue button. And I can set up multiple queues, but I'm just going to use the default queue. And I'm going to click Save. And then I'm going to click Save again. And OK, uploaded to the server. No errors. That is fantastic. So let me move my phone back here, front and center. Come on, phone. Here we go. And I'm going to go to the hamburger menu. Let me show it to you with my mouse because you won't see my finger. And I'm going to tap that hamburger menu, and I'm going to click this brand new option, which now appears, called Claim Forms. So there's Claim Form. Now, Claim Form requires a live internet connection. A lot of TransForm doesn't require, you can use it in an offline mode, but claiming a form means that you're actually reaching out to a server to see if there are any unassigned forms, and if so, putting your name on it. So of course, that's going to require an internet connection. And as you'll see, we do let you know whether or not you do have an internet connection when we're doing this. And in fact, we do. So I'm going to now tap the button called Default Unassigned Forms. And this is just one of my queues. I could have had multiple. And then you'll see that form that I just created at 1:07 p.m. You'll see it's 1:08 p.m. on my clock is right there. So I'm going to tap that because I want to claim it. And if I had multiple, I could have tapped multiple, and they would have all highlighted here in this sort of yellow color. And now I'm going to tap here to submit claims. Okay, so now I have a couple of options. I could hit done, and I'm going to get a little warning, and you'll see why. It's going to say, okay, you claimed that form, but you didn't download that form to your device. Do you want to do that? And if so, what you want to do is you want to cancel out of here, and you want to actually click this download granted button. Now let's say and that will actually download the form to the device. Let's say I'd forgotten to do that though. And I said done, and I said, oh, never mind, I'll get that later. It's still been assigned to me. And to know that that's the case, I'm going to go over here back into TransForm Central. And now that I've claimed it, what I should see here is that it's been assigned to me. And so I'm going to go hit refresh instead of being in Q1. So I'm going to hit refresh. Oops. Sorry, third time's the charm. Okay. And you'll see that it has in fact been assigned to me. So if I want to see that, all I need to do now on my phone, because I hadn't downloaded it earlier, is hit the refresh button up here at the top. And there you'll see it has now appeared, and it should have that value that was pre-filled in. Here, I'll fill in another value, 275. That's calculated the area. We'll hit done. We'll upload that. Oops, I'm trying to click when I should tap. And I'm going to go over here, and we're going to hit refresh. And voila, it's come back. So I created a ticket. I didn't assign it to anyone. I then went in with my phone and I claimed that ticket. I filled it out, I uploaded it, and now it appears here assigned to me. So that is queuing, and it's probably our biggest feature. Arguably, the ability to set TransForm filler to a different server is also a pretty huge feature. But this is one of our bigger features. Let me take a look through our list and show you some of the other ones that will be coming up. Right now, I am putting together the documentation to tell you what all this is. So this is really just a quick sneak preview. And if you guys have any questions as I go, by all means, go ahead and type them into the questions box of the GoToWebinar control panel. So we already talked about the fact that you could set servers, and we talked about the fact that we could do queuing. Here's a new one, canned images. I can't demonstrate this to you right now, but I can tell you what it is. With a canned image for annotation, imagine you were designing a car rental form, or maybe a car accident report form, right? What you might want to do is have a picture of a car, just a generic car, in which you circle where the damage occurred. Oh, it occurred on the fender, or it occurred on the windshield. You've probably seen something like this if you've ever rented a car that has that kind of form on it. So with canned images, we'll now allow you to pre-build in the images that you annotate. Because in the past, you could do image annotation, but you first had to take a picture of the thing that you wanted to annotate. With this new feature, you'll be able to use a pre-canned image and annotate on top of it. Another good example of that is, say, a chiropractor's office. You may have a picture of an outline of a human body, and you circle the place, where something is creating pain or something like that. So that's called canned images, and that is another feature that is coming out in this version. Some other usability improvements. We've made these buttons way bigger. Our biggest customer so far, said we cannot use the application very efficiently simply because the buttons were too small. So we have actually improved the size and the shape. It's a small thing for us to do, but it's going to make a big difference in usability. A couple other things we've done, and this is all really rough notes here, but is that you can now shut off the ability to do add form. Let me show you why you do that. So here, take a look at the form filter, the Alpha TransForm application. And you'll see prominently add form is here. And the reason we have add form is so you can create a new blank copy of a form and fill it in. Well, in many businesses, we don't want the employees to be creating, or the workers out in the field to be creating their own forms. They only want them to pre-fill in or finish filling in the ones that were designed for them. So that add form capability was superfluous to them. So we have the ability now to shut off add form. So it's a button that won't get in their way, and they won't type in won't go down the wrong path. And you'll still have the ability to turn it on selectively for users based on their role in the permission system. Oh, I see we have a question. Let's take a look here. Is there built-in integration between TransForm and QuickBooks? Great question. There is no built-in integration, but you could do an integration, I'm almost positive, using Zapier. And barring Zapier, you could also do an integration if you created a web service, say using Alpha Anywhere, and using their QuickBooks ODBC driver, which we've used before, that allows you to talk between Alpha and QuickBooks. There's probably, if you're using the online version, I would imagine also some API calls, and those API calls you could do either from a separate web service that you have running on a server, or you could do it using TPL itself and go directly from the client right to QuickBooks, provided they have an API. TransForm would have that capability. So great, thank you for your question there. Going through other features, move this back over here. We've added some abilities to, oh, here's sort of a fun thing, but we need to do it in other places. For those of you who have been driven a little bit crazy by the fact that you couldn't really move these panels around, especially in the designer, you now can. You can actually change the command properties. Often this will have a lot of information, especially if we've got like a list field or something, and it might make more sense to make this wide and this a little bit shorter. So yeah, just a small little tweak to the interface, but something that was asked for, so we added that in. I know we have bigger features in this. Let me take a look through the list. As I say, I'm still in the midst of compiling it because it's just been handed to me, but I thought I'd share it with you. Okay. Google, it's one of these. Shoot. I hate when I lose my notes. Hang on a moment, folks. I'll find it real quick. Thanks. Log in as me. Oh. Sorry, there's pilot error here. Let me open this up, back up again. I should show my screen. Okay, here we go. So we have restricted, although we've already done this, the ability to shut off the debugger for only people who have developer or account admin roles. It was previously set so it was only account admin, but we've allowed a new role called developer, which will also allow you to use the debugger on the device. Let me see, we talked about shutting off the add form building. We talked about panel resizing. I think that's about it. Oh yes, and there's a bunch of new programmability in TPL. For example, we now have the ability to grab GPS locations just using TPL. In the past, you could get GPS locations, but it required the user to tap on a field to get that location. Now we can actually do something about that. We are now allowing for better read-only expressions in our fields. There are reasons why you might not want the user to change the value of a field. And for example, maybe they've submitted it and you want to allow them to change other things except for a particular piece of data that was entered. You can now do that using a TPL expression. Next, we've allowed you to set up your if conditions, and next week I hope to show you a cool form that I've been working on, which has a very long if condition built into it, which I just hand coded. When you're building ifs, let me just pop over and build ifs because I've got a moment to show you that. You're building ifs. Let's say I wanted to say I'm only interested in filling in the width here if the length has something in it. I could say, I could wrap that in an if, and I could say if, I'll choose a field name, the width, if the length is not equal to, I think I can do nothing, or is not equal to 0, then I want this field to display conditionally. Okay, so that's fine, and that's just sort of TPL language. But there's no real helpers here except to include TPL, to include the field names, excuse me. And right now what we've done is if you go back into the designer, and I'm just going to go ahead and click Save Commands, and I'm going to open up that area tracker form. Oops, that's not what I meant to do. I meant to go down here to Advanced Features. We're going to take a look at the code. Ifs now have the ability for you to set them here in the code editor. You'll say, well, so what? I could already set them in the designer. Why would I want to do that? Well, the reason is because you now have all the other advantages that you have here. You have the ability to, well, of course, pick fields you could do, but you can add expressions, you can add statements, and you've got all the help and stuff here. So since ifs were somewhat of a programming task to begin with, we thought that we would now allow you to set them both places. So that's just a cool little thing. And let me see if there's anything else that I can find you that you'll find interesting for today. We have a couple new, we've added some more things that you're allowed to do in HTML. And we've added a new function that lets you, which is basically an if-then function. If you're familiar with the xBasic if function, the one that gives you back one of two values depending on the expression, we've added something like that to TPL as well. And that's actually a very handy command. But again, we also have some bug fixes as well. Hopefully they didn't apply to you, but if they did, fortunately they are now fixed. And that's about it. So like I said, the next 24 to 48 hours, you're going to get a write-up with these notes, hopefully in less babbling English than I've been going on with today. And with more examples and pictures, and also with the information that you're going to need to download the new versions and test them out. So the idea is, once you get that new version, we would really like you to bang on it. We've been banging on it here for a while, but we want you to make sure that it's working with the work that you're already doing. So if you have a sample form that you already have, if you have data that we've made a copy of that database in the background. So go ahead and bang on it and make sure that it works and that there are no gotchas and that we haven't introduced something that is stopping you from getting what you need to get done with your implementation of it. And of course, write to us immediately or contact us immediately. If you do run into something, we can of course delay the release until we're sure that we are happy with it. So that's about it. Does anyone have any other questions today I'd like to go into? Okay, well, if not, hey, thanks very much for joining me again. And next week, we're going to be going over a sample application, hopefully both front end and back end example. And I think you'll find that quite interesting. In the meantime, if you have any questions, go ahead and send them to tfservice, that's transform service @alphasoftware.com, and we'll be happy to get back to you. Thanks again. Take care. See you next Tuesday. Bye-bye.